What's so special about Efraim and Menashe? Why does Yaakov Avinu say in this week's parasha, Parashat Vayechi, that Efraim and Menashe are so special that they're going to be part of the tribes? Listen, the nice kids, but how come he didn't make Reuven's kids part of the tribes? How come he didn't make Yehuda's kids part of the tribes? How come he did? There's many other grandkids. Many other grandkids. Why does Yosef's kids become part of the tribes? What's so special about them? Why? Because he likes the name Ephraim? He likes the name Menashe? What's the deal? So, if you guys remember, before Yaakov Avinu came to Egypt, the brothers told him that Yosef was alive and he was the viceroy of Egypt, meaning he was second to the king. And it says that initially Yaakov didn't believe them. He didn't believe the brothers. He didn't believe Yehuda, he didn't believe Reuven, he didn't believe them. Now let me ask you a question. You think that Yaakov thought that his sons are sadistic? He's already suffering for 20 plus years that his son is not there. Now they're making up some lie that he's alive and he's really not alive, just to, give it to the old man, give him a nice heart attack. What do you mean I don't believe him? These are Kodesh Kodashim. He knows how holy his sons are. Why, they're going to make up a story? Your son's alive and he's the viceroy nonetheless. Why are you telling me this? What's the whole deal with Yaakov doesn't believe them? You guys asked this question? Who has this? No? Chavod? Who has the answer? Tzatan has an answer. Tzatan Talmid Chacham, son.
I mean, he wanted to get the mitzvah of seeing his son and therefore appreciating it much more. Like he wanted to be able to think.
No, but it says he didn't believe them. He didn't believe them. Tachlis didn't believe them. They said, your son Yosef, alive, and he's the king. Says, Yaakov didn't believe them. At first, didn't believe them. Then he believed them. First question is, why don't you believe he's a tzaddikim? You know your son's a tzaddikim. Yehuda, Am Yisrael comes from Yehuda. We're called Yehudim because of Yehuda. We know it's tzaddikim. You talk about Stipler Gaon, Rav Ovadia, Rav Eliashiv, all the big Chavetz Chaim are coming to you and say, hi, Abba, your son that you thought is dead, he's really alive, and you're going to watch him on the news. He's the king. It's not like he's some guy. No, he's the king. You see him on the news. He's the president. He doesn't believe them. What do you mean you don't believe them? Why? These are tzaddikim. Why, they make up stories? No, Joshua's going to give me something.
Because that's one of the punishments of for lying, for them lying to Yaakov.
But he didn't know they lied.
Right.
It's a good answer, but he didn't know they lied. It's a good answer, but he didn't know they lied. It's nice perspective, but he didn't know they lied. No?
I think it's because it has to do with Serach Bat Asher.
Serach Bat Asher was singing in the background.
Because then when she was singing to him, Yaakov Avinu got Ruach HaKodesh.
Ken? But he only got Ruach HaKodesh after he believed. Not when he didn't believe. The reason why Serach Bat Asher, Serach the daughter of Asher, they asked her to sing in the background, Yosef is alive and he's the viceroy. Why? Because they knew that if they give this news to Yaakov Avinu all at once, the old man may get a heart attack. Why? You give somebody so big news, good news like this, they get a heart attack, you kill them. And what ended up happening, they were scared. So what they do, they had Serach sing a song that was like background music in hopes that it's gonna soften him up. So when they actually tell him, yeah, Yosef is alive and he's the viceroy, he's the king, and he won't get a heart attack from it. And that's why after all said and done, after he finally believed them and so on, he understood what Serach did, what Serach the daughter of Asher did, and he blessed her to live forever. She lived hundreds and hundreds of years. She never died. She's one of the women that went to Gan Eden with her clothes on. Never died. Now, but that's still, again, after the fact. This is when he believed. I'm asking why he didn't believe.
I don't know if I think
Good answer, but
the
you're on chapter 2. We're still stuck on chapter 1. Still stuck on chapter 1.
I think I've read from the sages who exactly said he did not believe, not that he did not believe he was alive, but rather he was the same Yosef that he was, the Chacham that he was when he left, and that he didn't believe in all this Toma. He was the same person.
So what Nathanael is trying to tell us here is that Yaakov says, wait, you're telling me that Yosef is alive and he's the king of Egypt? It's not possible. It's not possible. How could it be Yosef is alive and he's the king? Why? Because the Torah says, HaKadosh Baruch Hu says to the prophet Yecheskel, Ki lo echpotz b'mot amet, ne'um Adonai Elohim, ve'eshivu v'chayu. HaKadosh Baruch Hu says to the prophet, for I do not desire the death of the one who's dead. The word of Hashem Elokim, turn yourselves back and live. So here we see that HaKadosh Baruch Hu calls sinners dead. Gemara says someone that's a sinner, someone that's a rasha, he's considered dead while he's still alive in the eyes of Hashem. So Hashem says, I'm not interested in the death of the dead. What do you mean death of the dead? If he's already dead, what do you mean death of the dead? He says, no, the guy that's a sinner, it's a rasha, I already consider him dead. He's already dead while he's alive. He's walking dead, this guy. I'm not interested in him continuing. I'm interested in him doing tshuva and becoming alive. So, when Yosef left, he was a big tzaddik. He learned with his Abba every day. He was Kodesh Kodashim. So he says, so Yaakov says, wait, you're saying Yosef is alive, meaning he's still a tzaddik, he's alive, but he's also the king of Egypt? That's an oxymoron. That doesn't work. It doesn't work. How are you going to be with all this money, with all this tum'ah, with all of this stuff, and still be chai, still be alive, meaning still a tzaddik? Not alive flesh and bones. Who cares alive flesh and bones? Who cares alive flesh and bones? What do you think, he's crying because flesh and bones left this world? He's going to Gan Eden. What does he care? He says, no, how could it be? He's alive, he's a tzaddik, but he's also the king. How could it be? So what did they say? They said, look, he brought us these carriages. He brought us the Agalah. The Agalah had the symbols of the cow. Why? To show you, Abba, to show you, Yaakov, that he still remembers the shiur. The shiur, the last shiur that you and him learned together about the red cow. He sent us the specific Agalah, the specific thing, caravan or so, to carry the stuff with a symbol on it. Why? Because it has to show you that he still remembers the shiur you guys learned together, Chavuta, 22 years ago about the red heifer. If he's really a rasha, how is he going to remember the shiur from 20 years ago? That shiur was so complicated, you had to repeat it over and over for 20 years to remember it. So that's when Yaakov says, he's alive? Okay, now he's alive. So now we go back to Efraim and Menashe. Efraim and Menashe, why is Efraim and Menashe so special over all of the other grandkids? In the parasha, chapter 48, Sefer Bereshit, we're almost done with the Sefer Bereshit, and he says, ואתה שני בניך נולדים לך בארץ מצרים עד בוא אליך מצרימה לי הם. אפרים ומנשה כראובן ושמעון יהיו לי. He says, and now your two sons who were born to you in the land of Egypt, before my coming to you in Egypt, shall be mine. Efraim and Menashe shall be mine like Reuven and Shimon. What's so special? Why are they like mine? He says, you see, you had sons. My other kids had sons. Everybody had sons. But they are like my sons. They're special. Why are they special? Because they were able to be tzaddikim. Tzaddikim, even though they're surrounded by Miami Beach. They're surrounded by Las Vegas. They're surrounded by all this tumah in the world, but they're still your sons, meaning they're tzaddikim like you, like the Abba. They learn Torah every day, they do mitzvot. They didn't fall into the trap, the tumah of everything else. They lived in a secular neighborhood, but still stayed kosher people, Shomrei Shabbat. He says, such a person, such a grandkid, they deserve to be part of the tribes. They're like Reuven and Shimon. Why? Because all of the other grandkids, they were around me all day. So I can't tell you they would survive the test. I can't tell you if I send Reuven's son to Egypt, he would come back the same grandson. I can't tell you if I send Yehuda's kid to Las Vegas, he's going to come back the same grandson. But your sons, they prove themselves. Why? Look at them. Tzaddikim, they have the kippah on, they have the tzitzit on, they're tzaddikim, everything. They're going to be part of the tribes. Why? They withstood a test of living in Sodom and Gomorrah. And they're still like this, they're part of the tribes. That's what makes it, that's the reason, Rabotai. That's what HaKadosh Baruch Hu tries to teach us in this parasha. A person should never ever be sad, upset, or even question the fact that they didn't grow up religious or they didn't grow up in the right neighborhood. It's the opposite. The fact that you grew up in a neighborhood that's not surrounded by yeshivot, the fact that you grew up in a place that's the opposite of Judaism, that's what HaKadosh Baruch Hu wanted for you. And He still expects you to be like Efraim and Menashe. He still expects you to be like Efraim and Menashe, tzaddikim. Why? That was your test in this Gilgul. That was your test in this life. To overcome the desires of the projects, to overcome the desires of Las Vegas, to overcome the desires of all of the nonsense of Miami Beach, of New York, of Los Angeles, of all of this tum'ah, overcome it and still be tzaddik. Why? Because He says to us, someone like that, that's part of my tribes. Someone that overcomes such a test, that's a person that's part of my tribes. If I sent you to Bnei Brak, and you're in a room all day, 4 walls all day, you have your Rabbi, you have your Ima Abba, you have food, that's it, all day you're learning. Okay, Chazaku Baruch, but not that special. Why? You never saw a half-naked woman just go, on an average day, just going to the store. You never saw. You were surrounded by certain surroundings that you never saw any of that stuff. Okay, so you're good, Chazaku Baruch, but you're not one of the tribes that's like so special because you didn't have the test. You didn't have the test. But you grew up in Staten Island where pretty much it has the highest addiction to painkillers in the world. Highest addiction to painkillers in the world. Little place that nobody even knows what it is. Highest place, drug addiction like there's nobody's business. You come out of this place, you become a tzaddik. You're special. You're special. Keruven v'Shimon Yuli. You're like a tribe. You're tzaddik. Why? You came from the worst place on earth. Why? You grew up in Los Angeles. Your rabbi was a reformed woman, but she said she was a man. Ha! You're going to be Reuven and Shimon. You're tzaddik. Ashrecha. Ashrecha. You withstood the test. You withstood the test. You're special. That doesn't mean you should go start moving, leave the good neighborhood, go move to the bad neighborhoods. But never ever think for a moment that just because you had a different set of cars than the people that live in Bnei Brak, the people that live in all these different places full of tzaddikim, that you are given the short end of the stick. The opposite. The opposite. The Gemara Masechet Brachot says, a Baalei Tshuva, people that are real Baalei Tshuva, tzaddikim gmurim cannot even reach them. Cannot even reach them. Why? Someone that overcomes all of the desires of this world and still remains a righteous woman, a righteous man, no matter what, that's what HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants. More than anything else. That's Keruven v'Shimon Yuli. There's no excuses. Obviously, you should always live in a better neighborhood and try your best. But if you don't have an option, your parents decided to live right next to the beach where pretty much no one walks around with any clothes. It's not, you're what, 12, 13 years old. You can't tell Ima and Abba, I'm moving out. Where are you moving to? The basement? Where are you going to move to? You have no option. You have no option. You have to live in this place because your parents decided to live on the beach. They, they forgot their brain at work. So what happens? So you have no option. If you can still manage to be a tzaddik or tzaddikah, despite this, you are Hashem's greatest prize. Greatest prize. That's why Yaakov says that out of all the grandkids, there were 70 nefashot came. A lot of grandkids. A lot of grandkids. And this is even years later. There's many, many more. There's hundreds of thousands already at this point. Out of all the grandkids, only Menashe and Ephraim become the part of the tribe. Why? Because they withstood the test. They withstood the test.